Welcome back, guys. Ted with Forward the Line. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. The short form videos went over very well. Thank you guys for the views. Please like, please follow, and please share if you would. We'd love to get our company, our podcast, our message out to the masses and help fight in the culture war to bring traditional values, masculinity, and American pride back to the mainstream. So let's jump right on into this. From News Nation, Jay Cutler responds to Kristen Cavallari's reckless divorce comments. The former NFL player said on a recent episode of Take It Outside podcast that Cavallari's comments about the divorce settlement were reckless and untrue. Quote, "It's irresponsible. I think it's reckless. I think it's borderline slander to insinuate that there was $0 split during the marriage that each side got." That's in response to her episode on her podcast, Honestly Cavallari, the headline tour, where she denied claims that her ex-husband funded her jewelry brand, Uncommon James, and said she's never received money from him, which is complete and utter bullshit. And we'll get into that in a second because I'll show you a little video of what exactly happened, and he makes some excellent points. But the level of entitlement coming out of this woman is very disheartening, and we'll talk about that later too. But the fact that you can insinuate that you didn't get any financial value from him when you built a company while you were married means that you don't either understand what leverage you had by being a wife to a multi-million-dollar athlete, or you just think you're such hot shit that just because he didn't give you physical dollars in investments into your company and it came from outside sources means that you built it all by yourself without any help from anybody else, which is stupid and unintelligent, because your company would be unknown if it weren't for the fact you were married to him, right? The platform that you get from that, the attention, the visibility that you get from that is unmatched by other than somebody who's actually, a TV star themselves, right? Or a movie star or whatever, right? Especially for somebody who's basically a no-name, who is a reality TV star. You're not a Kim Kardashian, right? You're just a random person who was on a reality TV show, and you married a guy who's worth a lot of money. Your company wouldn't be anything. I'm not saying you didn't work hard to build the company after the fact, but you would not have been nearly as relevant if it weren't for the fact you were married to him. I mean, look at me. I'm just a guy on the internet making a stupid podcast, talking to anybody who will listen, and I'm building a company from the ground up, but you already had a leg up. You had a great leg up at that. So, and that's, by the way, that's priceless, right? You can't put a dollar figure on that, especially because it was a marriage and it's supposed to be held to very high esteem. But since you just shat all over it and filed for divorce, well, whatever. You're just an ass, basically. And it sucks because there's a lot of women like this. There's a lot of women like this, and it's not all women. I'm very fortunate to have a very wonderful woman. But there are a lot of women like this out there that are entitled, that are over-empowered, that have been told that they can do anything in the world and they can be just like a man and get just as high up and be a CEO of an organization. And not all women can do that. Not all women should do that. We'll get into that later. But let me go ahead and pull this up here. It's a video. I pulled it from Louder with Crowder. By the way, great show if you haven't seen it.
State of Tennessee,
great show.
If we went to the judge and been like, hey, he's going to keep every single dollar over the past 7 years and you're going to get nothing. There's not a judge in the state of Tennessee that would have signed that. They would be like, no, this isn't right. This isn't legal. Not happening. So there's that. B, she has a lawyer. I have a lawyer. Is her lawyer really going to be like, fine, you get $0?
The lawyer he paid for, by the way.
All the money that was made over 7 years.
Exactly.
Absolutely not. That's completely false. No child support. Sure. Whenever you're dealing with this kind of type of settlement, there's not going to be because
the number is large.
Alimony is huge.
$1,000 a month.
Yeah. This number it's a very, very big number, and a company to boot, which was hers, which was also a marital asset because it was created
didn't even fight it.
Marriage.
Didn't even fight it.
Our revenue is close to $50 million a year, but because I was obviously a WAG, athletes' wives or girlfriends, if you're not familiar, people love to say that everything I have in my life is because of my ex-husband, and that my ex-husband funded Uncommon James. But I am, to this day, 100% owner. Doesn't mean he didn't fund it. And I be never taken outside any funding. So I'm willing to bet he helped with the copy that was written for the company. I have never gotten a penny from my ex-husband. No one's saying pennies. We're saying millions. I
Right.
didn't get any money from our divorce, so let's just clear that up.
Yeah, highly doubt. Highly doubt that. She's so fucking entitled. Dude, she's so entitled. She's a nobody. She would be a nobody if she wasn't married. I don't know. You know what? Maybe it's a publicity stunt. Maybe she's doing this on purpose. I mean, but boy, boy, does that suck for Jay. You know, and it sucks because women like this, we've built a culture where women are told that they can do anything, that they can be anything, and all masculinity is toxic, which isn't true, by the way, not even a little bit. But it's gross to think how much young men have been beaten down in the last 20 years, saying that you can't approach women, else you're going to be charged with harassment or arrested or called a pervert or whatever. You can't approach them. When you do approach them and you do ask them out on a date, you have to pay for everything, but you have to you can't do certain things. You can't follow certain mores and norms that you would have done in the past as a man because that's just toxic masculinity. You can't say certain things. You can't request of her certain things in a relationship. You know, you can't cook, and if I work and I'm the breadwinner and you work at home, I can't tell you to do that because that wouldn't be right. That's toxic masculinity, and that's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. And then after all of that, you wonder why men are just not getting involved in the dating pool, right? Because of the attitude, and because Me Too was just the icing on the cake, right? But because of all that, we've reached a point in our society where young men just say, fuck it, what's the upside? What is the upside? You're telling me I have to go through all of this courtship and dating, and then finally, if I get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'll marry this girl, at any time, it could just be yanked out from underneath of you for no good reason, right? Irreconcilable differences, and I will take this tooth and nail for the rest of my life. Irreconcilable differences is the most ridiculous concept that has ever been passed into law. I would advocate to repeal that every day of the week, right? Because there were 4 original reasons why you could get a divorce, and those were legitimate reasons. I'm not anti-divorce. I'm anti certain parts of divorce, but those 4 reasons were financial issues, abuse, neglect, and infidelity, right? And those are solid things. I completely understand that. Now, if you're having problems, go work it out with the mediator. Go work it out with a therapist, right? Don't just give up on something so sacred, because marriage itself is an institution and it's been completely destroyed. Now it's a state love agreement is what it is now. But it was a religious institution. Doesn't necessarily have to be religious, but it's a sacrament. It's a bond that is between a man and a woman. And yes, a man and a woman. I don't particularly have any issue with gay folks getting married. I'm iffy about how the religious implications of that, civil unions, that whole idea. But that's another topic for another day. But the point of the marriage was to build a family, to direct the aggression and the determination and the vision of a man that comes with the masculine traits that are okay. By the way, it's okay to be testosterone based, and do those things. And you take that in conjunction with the woman's loving, embracing, nurturing creation, right? You take those 2 things together and it makes a powerhouse of an institution that is the basis of our entire civilization for a millennia, right? And we've destroyed that. We've destroyed what that means in our culture. And there's a lot of people that don't know that. But listen, if you didn't know that out there, what the point of a marriage is other than a government contract, that's the point of it. And it's to rear children, it's to build community, it's to build a family, it's to create a successful foundation for your family to grow and prosper. That's the point of a marriage. And we've lost that in our culture and society. And it's very, very disappointing. And we need to work on building that back. Now, there's something that the left says very frequently, specifically when it comes to rearing children, that it takes a village. And I think that statement has been purposefully reconfigured to fit a leftist narrative, a socialist, Marxist, communist narrative, right? That it takes a village. That's what they use as a baseline for teachers to say, we should be able to make decisions on behalf of the child. We should be able to tell them what to do, not the parents. That's the basis for that, saying it takes a village. I think what that really means is it takes family, because hundreds of years ago, in a small village, in a small town, those people were related. And at the least, they knew each other. They knew each other well. They were an extended family in a lot of ways. And you just don't get that now. I mean, in some places you do, for sure. Rural areas, you do get that type of camaraderie, I guess you'd call it, and extended family aspects. But when you get into the suburbs, when you get into the cities, in the cities, it's dead. You don't talk to anybody outside of a small select group of people that you already know. You have no idea what the person is doing in the apartment down the road. Then you are down the hallway. Then you jump into the suburbs, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I know them. I might have talked to them a couple times. Like my neighbors, I've talked to them a handful of times, and they're really good people, very good people. But you do not have that connection. You do not have that relationship. And what it means is when you have hard times, you reach out to your family. But if you don't have a wealthy family, if you don't have a big family, a strong family, and you're building anew somewhere, you reach out to your community. It takes a village. It takes help. It takes a group to support each other, not rear your children. So that whole narrative is a bunch of bullshit, and it's designed to take the power away from the institution of marriage. That's the point. So, anyways, let me move on to some facts here, because it's unfortunate that all of these things I've just discussed have ended up destroying the perception that young men and young women, to a certain degree, have on marriage, have on the institution. So if you look right here, this is from 1950 to 2025. The childbirth rate, of course, most of you guys know this. This is based on a per 1,000 women, 15 to 44. It was 106 out of 1,000 in 1950. It's 55 to 57, so half of the amount, and it's been on a slow decline between 1950 and 2025. Now, you guys probably know our birth rate is really small, and it's another way of looking at that figure, but it's sad because of a lot of reasons. Well, women aren't having kids. I mean, 18 to 29, 34% are single, 20% are not dating in the past year. This one's big. 35 to 40% are never married by the age 34, and 49% are childless by the age of 34. That's based 2020 to 2024. 49% don't have kids by the time they're 34. 100 years ago, that would have been outrageous. If you were older than 21 and you didn't have a kid, you were weird. You were weird. I mean, people were getting married at 15, 16, 17 years old. I'm not saying that's right. But what I'm saying is it was a completely different cultural perception on marriage and family that we do not have now, and we need to build it back. So back to this one, the marriage rate per 1,000 population in 1950 was 90.2, and that has dropped tremendously to 6.0 to 6.5. Now, mind you, you can see right there, it was 90 in the 50s. That was after World War II, the baby boomers, everybody was coming home and getting married. That's all fine and dandy. But even still, you go down to 70s and the 80s, 10.6, and then drops to 9, and then plummets to 6.5. And that just shows you that the people aren't wanting to do it. Right. Even more so, the divorce rate. This is something that the left uses as a talking point, saying, oh, it really hasn't changed, because it was 2.5 in 1950 per 1,000 population and 2.5 to 2.7 in 2025. Oh, it hasn't changed. Well, no, that's per 1,000 population. That's everybody included. So you take the total number, divide them by the divorces in the country. That is not a real statistic. And they use that on purpose to try and get you to believe that nothing has changed. It's not a big deal. Right. But in reality, the divorce rate per 1,000 married women is 10.3 out of 1,000 in 1950 and 14.5 to 15 in 2025. Now, mind you, you look at 1980 and 1990 and let's start 70, 80, 90, 15, 22.5, 20.9, which you can see where the divorces were allowed, irreconcilable differences and similar BS ways of creating a divorce. You could see the increase was insane. Right. Now, at this point, you're at a situation where men don't even want to get involved. 18 to 29-year-olds, these are, by the way, these figures are from a YouGov poll and I think Pew Research poll. I'll put the references up in the description. 18 to 29, 63% are single, 30% are not dating in the past year. That's based on 2021 to 2023 figures. 63% of young men are single. 63%. We have demolished the idea of courtship. We've demolished the idea of marriage. And we need to build these back because, listen, not all women are like this, guys, young men. I was about to say kids. No, young men. Not all women are like this. They all don't want to be IG models. Not all of them. They all don't want to be attention whores, right? They all, it seems like a lot of the women, majority of the women want to go after the 5 to 10% top men because social media has allowed for that. But in reality, that's not all women. There are good women out there. You have to look, you have to try. But yet you see videos on the internet all the time of women getting all upset and doing videos saying, I don't know why no one comes up to me. I'm wearing a low-cut shirt and I'm jogging down the street and men won't come up to me. Well, you don't think maybe you created that by your nonsense? And instead of calling out the people that are nasty, the people that are perverts, instead of just calling them out, you called out all men and you said all men are toxic. Remember that? You remember you doing that? So you ever stop and look in the mirror for a minute and say, oh, how much of this is my fault? How much of this is our fault? How much of this is feminism's fault for berating men for decades and making them feel worthless to the point where they say, fuck it, there's no upside. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please check us out on forwardtheline.co and on X at forwardtheline. Like, follow, share, and as always, be happy, be healthy, get educated, stay motivated, and forward the line.